dissenting voices are being aggressively crushed by almost any means necessary, that media organizations are collaborated in a way that is unprecedented in order to shut down dissenting voices. And it appears to me that this is part of something. I don't know that we've seen anything like this before.
Tucker Carlson recently went on the Joe Rogan Experience, and obviously we all know that that whole situation really set off the Daily Wire and set off Ben Shapiro, because they were angry at Tucker Carlson for asking questions about the government and the narratives that they feed us. Daily Wire apparently taking offense to that and saying that anyone who asks questions or doesn't just believe blindly everything that the government tells us is anti-American and not a critical thinker. And people like Russell Brand were very vocal against those statements from the Daily Wire. People like Benny Johnson and so many others were going after the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro. I don't know if anyone actually agreed with them outside of the Daily Wire. I don't think anybody agreed with them. I don't know why you would. If you're actually on our side, if you're actually on free speech's side, if you're actually against the tyranny that has been going on for the last few years, I don't know how you could possibly agree with what the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro were saying. Now, Russell Brand, in this interview with Tucker Carlson, as you can see by the title of this video here from Tucker Carlson, says Russell Brand responds to coordinated smear campaign against him. And in this video, Russell Brand and Tucker Carlson go into why we should be asking these questions about the government and the mainstream media and the narratives that they're trying to spread to us. And I'm going to show you why this absolutely destroys everything that the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro were saying. We don't even need this, because Tucker Carlson even said on the Joe Rogan Experience that whenever he was trying to set up his interview with Putin, they contacted him because they were tapping his phones and they were spying on him. Basically, they were spying on his lines of communication and saw that he was trying to contact Putin to set up an interview. That right there just tells you that we should be questioning everything that's going on, everything that they tell us. Anyway, let's get into this clip here from Russell Brand and Tucker Carlson.
Critics of the way that the pandemic unfolded were under observation by agencies that were either funded by Big Pharma, sometimes the government. And in a sense, what I've started to realize, Tucker, is this cartilage between the state and the corporate world is often provided by these unusual organizations that are claiming to be observing disinformation or monitoring, but they're actually crushing dissent. That's what they're doing in practice. Dissenting voices are being aggressively crushed by almost any means necessary. That media organizations are collaborated in a way that is unprecedented in order to shut down dissenting voices. And it appears to me that this is part of something. I don't know that we've seen anything like this before.
So what you're saying is that these organizations, which purport to be independent, are not actually independent from government. They merely give government, the politicians and the intel agencies especially, some plausible deniability, some distance from what they're doing. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that, Tucker. That seems to be the function. There's a group called Logically, and Logically have received millions of pounds of taxpayer money. And what they do is observe dissenting voices around, in particular, COVID and pandemic measures. But they're now working in the United States, apparently in order to regard misinformation around election campaigning. It seems that this group received government money in order to control online spaces.
So if you're worried about the security of electronic voting machines or absentee ballots, who are denounced by
or literally anything, we saw, I forgot who it was with Tulsi Gabbard on the Joe Rogan Experience, where Joe Rogan brings up what Tucker was talking about and what Russell Brand and Tucker Carlson are talking about here in, the security of all these things. And Tulsi was saying that, yes, they have to get a court order to be able to spy on these things, to be able to hack into your devices and spy. Basically, it's straight up spying on what you're doing. But the court actually approves like 99.9% of these orders, from these intelligence agencies. So, yeah, man, everybody's getting spied on. There's every reason to question the government. I'm going to show you a clip from Ben Shapiro here in 1 second, but they're trying to tell us, the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro are trying to tell us to not question these things that the mainstream media and the government is telling us, the narratives that they're giving us. The question that I like that Joe Rogan asked in response to this was, what reason do we have to trust them? What have they told the truth about? We shouldn't even ask what they've lied about. What have they told the truth about in the last 5 or 10 years? Even longer. I mean, it's 2024 now. Time's flying. In the last 25 years, what have they told the truth about?
These people and censored by them.
That's that's precisely how it works. And of course, they employ former FBI agents, CIA agents. In a way, I suppose, what happened during the pandemic period, because of like the Twitter files, for example, we started to learn the degree to which the deep state were involved in in social media companies, the degree to which they were censoring and shutting down information that we now know to be true, which it was, of course, you'll be aware that Mark Zuckerberg said we did censor true information. The category, in fact, of malinformation is information that's true, but harmful to the agenda of the powerful. Well, it seems like groups like Logically and the Public Good Project are specifically empowered to control, censor, de-amplify information that is harmful to that agenda.
This seems to tell.
If you enjoy content like this, and make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell, it really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
Totalitarian.
Yeah.
To control what people are allowed to think is, I think that's the definition of it.
What I've started to, I suppose that's what, in essence, what I've started to feel and report on consistently, as you noted at the beginning of this. I'm not someone who's affiliated organically with conservatism or what you might regard as right-wing politics, although I, of course, recognize the legitimacy of a whole variety of political views and the right of people to hold different views from one another. But it seems to me that authoritarianism now is being deliberately veiled in the insidious language of care, concern, safety, and convenience. It seems to me that we're in a time where we lurch from one crisis to another, that the crisis is always used to legitimize certain solutions, and a docile or terrified public is willing to participate in this proposed solutions that usually involve giving up their freedom. We are continually being invited to give up our freedom.
Zuby had this great quote. I know I'm going to butcher it, but it was something like, in times of crisis, people don't just want authoritarianism, they demand it. He had that, he tweeted that out back in like 2020 or something, and it's always stuck with me. That's exactly what Russell Brand and Tucker Carlson are talking about now. It's like they make up these fake crises. These things might be actually happening, right? There might be an actual virus going around. There might be actual crises happening, but they make them out to be way worse than they actually are because they see them as opportunities. They're opportunists. If the same thing goes for wars, the same thing goes for everything. The border crisis. Oh, there's a problem at the border. How can we actually just turn this into a benefit to us? Oh, let's let a ton of people in and then let them vote, towards our side, and whatever. You get the picture. There's these crises that happen, and they always just spin them to either make the people scared and then make people do whatever they want to do, or make more money. If you're a weapons manufacturer or you have stake, you have a percentage of a weapons manufacturing company, and there's a war going on, you probably want to keep that war going on for as long as possible, right? If you want to continue to make money off of it. That's exactly what they're talking about. That's exactly what Zuby was talking about as well, where when there's, in times of crisis, people don't just want authoritarianism, they demand it. They demand somebody take control and tell us what to do because people are so scared. And the government and the mainstream media have abused this so much that I don't understand why the hell anyone would believe anything that they say. And speaking of that, I want to play this clip here from Ben Shapiro talking about exactly that topic. Let's check this one out.
You blame society, you don't have an answer. So it must be a conspiracy. There must be some sort, and you're just asking questions. You don't know. Right? This is the game that is played by so many corrupt commentators, just asking questions. I don't have to show you evidence.
To be clear, it does piss me off a little bit, the just asking questions people. That stuff does piss me off a little bit. Only when it comes to people like Just Pearly Things, who just they hide behind it so much. But whenever we don't have facts, these things that we're questioning, let's say, for example, the moon landing. That seems like a topic that I can actually talk about without, anything bad happening. Let's use that as an example for one of the things that just seems fishy. Well, nothing is declassified stating that. Let's actually use 9/11. That'd be better. Okay. Let's declassify everything around 9/11, and then we can present you with facts. But right now, nothing's declassified. They didn't declassify everything in regards to that. So we don't know. And that's just an example for all the other things that Ben Shapiro is referring to, where people are saying that they're just asking questions. Well, we don't have the facts and evidence because they will not release it to us. If there's nothing nefarious happening, then release it all. Declassify it all, and then we'll have no problems. And we can present you with facts and evidence, or you can present us with facts and evidence of the contrary. And then we can just see who's right. But because they will not declassify it, because they won't release us the information, well, it just leads us to ask more questions. So that's why I don't like people that hide behind the just asking questions stuff either. I agree with Ben Shapiro there. But when we don't have the facts and evidence because they are being withheld from us by the government and by the mainstream media, whatever, it differs on the different examples on who's hiding the evidence from us. But when we don't have it because we cannot physically access it, then it's different. We have nothing but questions to ask at that point.
That something terrible is happening. I don't have to actually demonstrate how the thing is happening. I don't have to tell you who the problem is. Wink, wink. But I can just tell you right now that there is a problem. But even, and if I'm asked about it, hey, I'm just asking questions. Now, let me tell you something about just asking questions for a second. Just asking questions is a game for children. My son is 7. He can just ask questions. My daughter is 10. She can just ask questions. If you are 50 and you are just asking questions, I don't think you're just asking questions. I think that your level of curiosity is actually quite low. I think that you don't care enough to know or know enough to care. I think that the vast majority of people who are in the just asking questions business have an answer that they want to suggest, but they know there's no evidence for it. So instead, they hide behind just asking questions. In other words, they're completely full of
the evidence that Ben Shapiro was talking about, well, you should be able to provide evidence to the contrary, right? But you can't. The only evidence that you have is that is the official narrative coming to us from the government or from the mainstream media. And that's enough for Ben Shapiro, I guess. all it takes for Ben Shapiro to believe something, a certain narrative, even after all the lies that we've been told, is, oh, the government told me this, or the mainstream media told me this, so I believe it. And if you don't, you're not a critical thinker and you're anti-American. It's ridiculous, man. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you're thinking about what Russell Brand had to say over there on Tucker Carlson's show to Tucker Carlson. I thought this was a great episode. If you didn't watch the whole thing yet, make sure you go over there and watch that full episode between Russell Brand and Tucker Carlson. And let me know what you're thinking about this absolute idiot right here, Ben Shapiro, telling us to stop asking questions. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments about the whole situation.